Hello, I'm Betsy Brune. I'm the director of the Smithsonian American Art Museum, and I want to welcome everybody who's here tonight for an evening that I know is profoundly affecting for all of us. I want to have the very special honor of introducing Richard Curran to all of you here, although probably you all know him anyway. Many of us know him as the Undersecretary for History, Art, and Culture at the Smithsonian, where he heads a huge portfolio of museums and centers and research groups, and does so without managing to be a bureaucrat, which we love. Some others of you may know him as the longtime director of the Folklife Center, heading the big team of people, the huge team of people that produce the Folklife Festival on the Mall every year, giving us all 2 weeks of thrill and enjoyment and enlightenment. You may have been to some of his other great occasions on the Mall. He, for instance, organized a big celebration, a reunion of World War II veterans when the World War II Memorial was being dedicated in 2004. He organized the 6-day extravaganza pageant of tribal nations that came to celebrate the opening of the American Indian Museum. He's done other things in other places. He did a big 1996 festival in Atlanta for the Olympics. So over time, I can think of no one who has provided more enjoyment and fun for all of us. He's also a wonderful author. His book on the Hope Diamond continues as a bestseller. If you haven't read it, you should get it. It's quite a page-turner. He is also a deep scholar. He's written a book about views at the Smithsonian about reflections from a cultural broker, kind of putting together a lifetime of experiences that he's had as a scholar and in the institution. He is on the U.S. Commission for UNESCO. He's done exceptional research and field work in his personal area of specialty, which is Southeast Asia ethnography. And more than that, all those things wrapped up together are not as important as the next thing, which I know many of you also understand about Richard. He is a profoundly caring person. He is in no way distant or removed. He feels everything that all of us feel. He's kind of the Bill Clinton of the Smithsonian, I think. It makes him a very, very special person in our midst and an inspiration to all of us. I know I always watch, I'm watching my TV when some horrible natural disaster is unfolding somewhere around the world, and I feel horrible and so frustrated to feel so helpless that there's nothing I can do. Maybe I can text message $10, but I feel so removed from any capacity to actually help. And Richard doesn't do that. When he sees something happening around the world, he picks up the phone and calls one of his worldwide network of contacts and gets on the phone to someone else who might have some money to put together, and the next thing you know, he's got a team of people and he's on the job reaching out. And I think when he saw the earthquake in Haiti, it affected him very, very deeply, and he said, there's got to be something the Smithsonian can do. And in no time flat, he had people and goals and money and a team, and he was there helping. And it's a great point of personal pride to me that one of the team that he assembled was our very own Hugh Shockey. He's the gentleman in the yellow tie who works in our conservation lab here in the museum, but he's just one part of a much bigger team. And we are all so proud. I just want to say, Richard, I know you said not to talk much about you, but this is one occasion to say that you are one of the reasons that we all feel very, very proud to work at this great institution. So Richard, where are you now? Oh, hiding behind the laptop here.
Thank you, Betsy. Well, thank you very much, and thank you all for being here. I have other colleagues here from the Smithsonian and beyond who join us today, and maybe we'll just start with Stephanie at the end.
Okay, I'm Stephanie Hornbeck, and currently Chief Conservator for the Cultural Recovery Project in Haiti.
I'm Hugh Shockey. I'm an objects conservator here in the Linder Conservation Center for the Smithsonian American Art Museum.
I'm Olsen Jean-Julien, so I'm managing the program, Haiti Cultural Recovery Program.
I'm Corey Wegner. I'm with the U.S. Committee of the Blue Shield and also serving as the international coordinator for the Haiti Cultural Recovery Program.
Hi, my name is Mike Bellamy. I'm a Smithsonian employee. I'm the director of the Office of Engineering, Design, and Construction, and had the fortunate opportunity to be a part of this great team.
And during the course of the evening, you'll meet other of the actors, players, and motivators of this project. As I think everybody knows, January 12th, 35 seconds. And in 35 seconds, that earthquake that reverberated through Haiti also went around the world as the rest of us watched on TV and heard news of the tragedy that entailed. Some 250,000 people dead, 1.5 million people homeless. Haiti's infrastructure already fragile, really destroyed. People sent, probably many of you, sent contributions right away, and we were all glued to TV watching this national drama play out. Olson, you were in Haiti at that time.
Yep.
You experienced the earthquake. What was it like? We have a picture here. This is the presidential palace in Port-au-Prince. What was it like in Haiti during the earthquake?
It's like it's the end of the time. I was home so with my family. It was about 5 o'clock, and the house started shaking. Our house did not destroy it, so we went out and we started seeing people covered with with blood, covered with cement, and we didn't know what earthquake looked like in Haiti. The last quake dated back like 250 years, and it took us like 4 hours to go from Boudon to the center of the city, which is normally 10 minutes. So, and you can see people, so like an hour before, after the quake, many people on the street. So many bodies. So it's like chaos. So if you can imagine like the National Mall filled with dead bodies. And we went to the hospital. There were no places. We went to the National Stadium. There were no places. So it's like, so you can imagine how it is to have like 200 people die in less than a minute. It's everybody is asking, who is alive? It's like you really don't know. It's like when you get a phone call. Oh, finally, you are alive. It's like I remember receiving a lot of emails from friends saying, are you alive?
Well, I remember getting this because Olson and I had worked together with Diane and Jai and other people on the Folklife Festival on the Mall in 2004, celebrating Haiti's 200th year of independence from 1804. And so we had known, and a lot of people were emailing and calling and trying to get in touch with Haitians. And I remember this email that I got from Olson who had sent to some relatives, and it just, you know, to get an email from a friend saying I'm alive, it's pretty heavy. After within days of the earthquake, I think, you know, the humanitarian effort was foremost in everybody's mind. Saving people that were trapped, of course, and dealing with dead relatives and friends. And then I remember reading in the New York Times about Patrick Villar, another one of our colleagues, who the New York Times reports that there's Patrick Villar trying to rescue books from a stack of rubble.
Yeah.
What was Patrick doing and why?
Patrick is the kind of guy who lived for Haitian culture. It's like this, for Patrick, this is what Haiti is about. So creativity and liberty. Like books, so painting, sculpture. Patrick is an architect. He's like very renowned sculptor, and he's an author. He's a cultural activist, So every single aspect of Haitian culture is like a passion for Patrick. So when he sees that, so libraries are destroyed, museums are destroyed, he thinks there is no future if we can't save very quickly Haitian culture. This is what he thinks Haiti's future is about. If there is no culture, there is no future. It's like after trying to save people's lives, after trying to organize things, the first thing to save is people's reason of living. Like in Haiti, culture is about the reason for us to live. We always say that we don't have many resources. It's like 8 million people sharing like 27,000 square kilometers. So, but a history of creativity, a history of fighting for liberty. So it's like trying to save that memory was the most important thing to do after trying to save, at the same time, trying to save people's lives. It's like there is no, it doesn't make sense to live in Haiti without creativity.
And we here, we're getting some reports. ISPAN, the Cultural Heritage Organization in Haiti, was indeed sending a bulletin. I think we all got, people in the cultural community started getting reports. And Corey, you say a word about Blue Shield and what it does, but you had served in Iraq as a public affairs officer. You'd been responsible in many ways in terms of the restoration of the museum. You'd seen the tragedy of the museum. So you start seeing these things in Haiti. What do you start thinking?
Well, I guess I did think a little bit about shades of when I was in Iraq working with civil affairs, we didn't have very many resources to respond to the looting of the Iraq Museum. There really aren't any international organizations set up for that kind of immediate emergency response. And so we created in the United States a committee that's basically an umbrella organization for organizations that deal with cultural heritage to provide an emergency response for cultural heritage and man-made and natural disasters. And so after seeing the earthquake in Haiti, we tried to respond by basically having a meeting. And it sounds like a small thing, but from small things come big things, we hope. And so called together basically all the Blue Shield organizations to meet here in Washington, D.C., and State Department, Department of Defense, other governmental organizations. We all came together to say, what's going on in Haiti? How do you think we could work together and try to help? And Richard Curran was at that meeting that day, and it was the first time I had met him, and he was really eager to help out. I could tell right away, and that he would be basically the person in our court to try and get things done.
Well, I wasn't sure what to do, but I looked for other guidance, and at that meeting was Errol Wentworth, who is the executive director of the American Institute of Conservation. And Errol, you were at that meeting. I mean, I was a babe. I was just in the last seat at the table. I didn't know what would happen on this. What did you think, going into that meeting, what did you think would happen? And you want to face the camera so people can.
Excuse me, here. And is this on? Yes, it is. Thank you. Thank you, Richard. Yes, I was so pleased when Corey called this meeting together. AIC had, after Katrina, put together a group of emergency responders funded. We had special training funded by the Institute of Museum and Library Services. So we had been responding domestically to emergencies for the past several years, but when something like this happened in Haiti, we did not have the connections, we didn't have the abilities to go to Haiti to do anything. So to be able to hook up with other people who had the expertise, and it was so interesting because at this meeting, someone asked, well, if we go around the table, would your organization, would you be a doer or a supporter? And oddly enough, AIC was the only group that said, well, we're a doer. Everyone else was a supporter. But I think what was important is that Richard became a doer and a supporter with the Smithsonian, and that changed the dynamics for everything that came after that. So it was a wonderful opportunity.
Well, we had contacts again. The only thing we had is because we worked with Olson, Patrick de la Tour, who's the Minister of Tourism, who was appointed by René Préval, the President of Haiti, to be in charge of reconstruction at the outset. And another friend of ours who had gotten us involved was Leslie Voltaire, who was coordinating aid with the UN. Another was Jerry Benoit, former First Lady of Haiti, who had worked with us on the festival. So we had a number of Haitians that we could talk to. Of course, we were talking to the State Department and UNESCO as well. But again, not being an expert knowing how to do this, I did what you kind of do at the Smithsonian or any other organization. You call another meeting. And part of this is because the United States doesn't have a Ministry of Culture. There's no central point for kind of coordination of this type of stuff. So I called a meeting, and you were at that meeting, and you had ideas, and what did you think we could do?
Well, I knew that we could help based on my previous experience with disaster recovery, particularly after hurricanes, that I knew that it would be possible for us to send, I guess, experts or skilled professionals there to work with Haitians to help them recover their own cultural heritage, which I felt at the time was really important that the Haitians be involved. And I think I just sort of hatched to you the idea that send us down, we'll supply some training and advice and guidance and, get Haiti back on its feet culturally, at least.
And Diana Jai, you were at that meeting. Diana Jai is a curator from the Center for Folklife and Cultural Heritage and curated the Haiti program at the 2004 festival, been to Haiti many times. And what did you think we'd do?
Well, one thing I thought that we were hearing all these things on the news about Haiti and really portraying Haitians as victims, but not as actors in the situation. And in addition to recognizing from having worked in 2004 and seeing the incredible rich crafts and so on, we knew that economic development was important, would be even more important now, but also that rather than just going over and having things happen from our side, it was important to involve Haitians to perhaps alert the American public to the culture that was really worth saving and worth looking at. So supporting Haitian living artists economically was important, as well as having Haitians involved in telling their stories to the public.
So I've gotten in the interim, we've certainly been talking to state and other cultural agencies, and then went to a UNESCO meeting because the idea was UNESCO as the International Cultural Education Scientific Organization would help formulate a international response that we would cooperate and would be part of. If anybody's ever dealt, and I love UNESCO, but bureaucracy, it's not exactly the fastest moving organization. And so we started developing the idea that we needed some type of base of operations. We needed some type of Haitian organization, to work with and to funnel and to channel American resources and volunteers in the cultural sector. But nobody was really paying attention to culture. And again, people were absorbed with housing for 1 million people and so many other things. And culture is always going to be a small part of it, but as Olson says, it doesn't mean just because it costs a little money or it's a small part of a big thing, doesn't mean it's important. Anyway, I needed some help. And so I went to Rachel Goslin's. The Smithsonian is one of several cultural organizations, the National Endowment for the Arts and Humanities, Institute of Museum and Library Services and others, as well as private citizens and the Secretary of State, Secretary of Smithsonian, and so on, sit on the President's Committee for the Arts and the Humanities. And I went to Rachel, and Rachel, you reached out and you helped. Why?
Well, in the communities in which the President's Committee on the Arts and Humanities move, when Richard came to us, in some areas we're proactive and in some areas we're reactive, and what we are good at doing because of the federal and private members on our committee and our relationship with the White House and a number of those agencies is catalyzing and escalating various initiatives. So when Richard came to us, there was this kind of instantaneous sense of, oh, yes, of course. This is exactly what we should be doing, what we want to be helping with. And that, I think, came out of two things. One is, you know, there was sort of a general sense that in previous instances, different administrations haven't gotten this right. You know, Iraq, which Corey was involved in, being, you know, a recent and you know, particularly difficult example. And so there was this sense that we could change that narrative and get it right this time by stepping in before it was too late. And also, you know, Richard talked about how still at this time they were still digging people out of the rubble and trying to get food to people and, you know, dealing with medical issues, and you almost felt overwhelmed and helpless, like how could you help? And there was a sense from the arts and humanities community that this was a way that we could be of service, that this was a place that we could step in and contribute in a way that would be meaningful and make a difference. You know, there are a number of high-profile artists and celebrities on my committee, and they were doing the telethons or singing or whatever. But this was an area where we thought really was the right fit for us, and so we started trying to be helpful. We started thinking about how to support this. A lot of what we do are public-private partnerships, and we also got. The First Lady is the honorary and fairly active chairwoman of the committee, so we got the First Lady and her office engaged early on in this initiative, which turned out to be helpful in a number of ways.
And you got me those New Yorkers.
Would you want me to go straight to the funding?
Let's go, yeah. Go
So then, obviously, there are many things that the government does well. In times of disaster, moving quickly on funding is not one of them. Even when the desire and the intent is there. So there was the need for some bridge funding as we got the bureaucratic processes, the wheels engaged. But before, it was kind of like a great Hollywood story, because we had literally the rainy season rolling in a matter of months, at which point a number of the materials that these folks were going to be working on would be seriously compromised. So I had this great ticking clock hanging over my head, and I engaged the other cultural agencies, the NEA, the NEH, and IMLS, who all committed discretionary funds to this project just right off the bat. And then we were very lucky to find in the Broadway League, which is actually an association of Broadway theaters and producers, a group of that actually had raised a chunk of money for Haitian relief, and we're trying to figure out where to spend it that made a difference. That wasn't just a drop in the Clinton-Bush relief fund. And there was a little bit of hesitation, working from Broadway and theater to the arts and culture in general, but they really got it. They got that that the collective creative consciousness of a country is what makes great art, whether it's theater or dance or painting. And so they heroically kind of stepped in and really underwrote the first phase of the project, together with the resources that the Smithsonian put in and a lot of the other partners and the other cultural agencies to get this off the ground.
And we were fortunate because we had, the support of, Rachel and the President's Committee and the First Lady, and also the Secretary of the Smithsonian. And Wayne Clough is a geologist. He's an earthquake engineer. So Wayne knew what it was. He knew Katrina. He knew the earthquakes out west in our own country. He knew earthquakes from around the world and the destruction they could cause. So he said, and it was not many secretaries of the Smithsonian have done that before, but Wayne said, you go to Haiti and you do this. And we're going to help out and we're going to do what we can. And so we ended up packing off, and I think the first trip, it was Diane and Jai, myself, Corey, and we were on the ground in Haiti. This is a picture of the National Cathedral in Port-au-Prince. That's what it was before the earthquake. And when we arrived that day in March, that's what we saw. And Corey, when you saw that cathedral and the rest of the day and what we saw in Haiti, what did you think? What did you think we can realistically do?
Well, that was the first stop of the day, and it was pretty overwhelming to drive the airport to the center of the city where the National Cathedral was, and to see the devastation all along the way. I mean, you can hear about it and you can see it on TV, but it's nothing like being in the middle of it. And then to see how dramatically damaged this structure was that's so important to the history of Haiti and of Port-au-Prince. And, you know, I had my moment of, oh my gosh, what have we gotten ourselves into? Because this is really going to take a lot of work. And so just, that was what I thought at first.
Yeah, I think we thought that the whole day going to, this is the Santa Art, which was the center of Haiti's art world, visual art world. And this was the Episcopal Cathedral with murals painted from the 1940s and 1950s by Haitian masters. Only remnants of three were left. This is the Nader Gallery, one of the largest museums in Haiti, with wonderful, wonderful holdings. And that's what it looked like. And I think for a while we had the good fortune, there was a lot of jockeying back and forth of how we do this. I'm a cultural anthropologist, so I hadn't met a three-star general before. I don't know, maybe Corey had, but we went to the military and we were thinking about how we're going to establish something in Haiti, some kind of organization. We figured we need a base of operation. And my impulse was to look at it like the Folklife Festival. That is, here you have a country devastated, you get a tent, you get a floor, you get a generator. You know, it's like you're putting up the Folklife Festival, and then you bring people in and you set up things and you get an operation going. And we first looked at this field. There's a field up there that was near the airport, and I saw those tents. And I asked that General Keane, I said, can we get some of your tents and some of your generators and some of your porta-johns? And he told me military rented it all. So that plan fell by the wayside. We knew we couldn't do that. And we started thinking, well, we need some place to put a base, a cultural recovery center in Haiti. And then I called on my friend Mike Bellamy here. Mike, you went down to Haiti, and how'd you get us a place?
Well, it was, it would probably take a couple hours to really.
And a few beers.
Yeah, a few beers, and a few French fries, right, to tell the whole story. But in Richard's typical fashion, it was after a meeting. It's something about these meetings. He said, I got something I need to show you. And he showed me some of the photos of what had taken place down there. And in my previous life, I had done a lot of work down in Haiti as an engineer and doing construction and those things. So I was very familiar with that part of the world. And so after he showed me the presentation, he looked at me and he said, can you help me? And so what was I going to say? And so I said, yes. He said, okay, we'll get on a plane and go down. And so off we went. And so I met Corey in Miami. We had a sense of what was going on because we had partnered with Georgia Tech. One of their professors, Dr. DeRoche, had done a lot of work down there immediately after the earthquake. So we had a picture of what it was like from an infrastructure and a facility standpoint. And so we had 3 sites that we went to when we went there. 2 of them were at the airport. And then after the first day, we thought we had the tents that Richard had done a great job brokering for. And then that night about 11:30, we got a call from the Army and said, you can't have them. And so we didn't know what to do. And so later on that day, later on that evening, we got a call again from the military, and they said, hey, we got this great building, if you guys would like to look at it. And so it was there. We had no transportation. At that point, the Department of State had another mission, and so they couldn't support us. So we had no vehicles. We had nothing. And so we were just sitting in the hotel, and then we got the call, and we went to the current site.
And then so you checked out this site, and you were looking for, I assume, a safe and secure building.
Right. Right. With the advent of the rainy season coming, and we wanted to make sure that we had a place that was secure and safe. And what we did before we went down there was I knew a bunch of naval engineers that were already on the ground that I'd worked with in the past, and I knew they had structural design capability and support. And so they provided both the real estate support to identify the facility as well as to check out from a structural standpoint for us.
And Mike was backed up by what we ended up calling Team Haiti, right?
Right, Team
A bunch
Haiti.
of your colleagues from our engineering and facilities division of the Smithsonian. We ended up with this building, which had been part of the United Nations Development Program compound. Recall from the earthquake, the Hotel Christopher had collapsed. Scores of UN people had died, not a quarter of a mile from here, and so the UN had given up this structure. But you guys certified it, thought it was safe and secure, and so we ended up with this building. And then you and Stephanie, you were looking at, so what are we going to do? Now we got a building.
Yeah.
And the Smithsonian made us a landlord, actually negotiated a lease. Ed Rinn over there, as a guy negotiated a lease, went down to Haiti. What were you looking for in the building? I mean, when you saw this, you said, well, you could put a bedroom here, or what do we need to put in there to actually do our work?
Well, on that first trip, just looking for space. I mean, I knew, in the meeting that we had previously that we could at least get started with the idea of a tent or, that sort of really sort of remedial structure. But when we walked to the current building, it was very luxurious by Haitian standards at the time, for sure. And really just looking for space that we could modify or utilize for preservation operations, really that would keep with the collections that we had seen that were really in need when we had gone for the survey.
And you guys went around looking at some collections too, right? Nadir and others?
Yeah, the first trip down, we went and saw several collections. It was sort of a whirlwind. I think Corey remembers we were in the truck and out of the truck and back in the truck and on to the next institution. And we saw a combination of things depending on the institution. Some institutions were really devastated by the quake, like Nadir. Other institutions had some damage, some structural damage to their facilities, but were also in need of assistance in what we would consider basic museology type assistance in order to help them with their collections from this point forward and to prepare for anything that might be coming down the line as additional earthquakes, hurricanes, other natural disasters.
So we finally got together. We got an agreement with the Haitian government. Again, one of the co-curators of the program, the Folklife Festival program from 2004, Patrick de la Tour. We met in Washington. We met with the cultural minister. Rachel organized the heads of the different cultural agencies, and we ended up signing a memorandum of understanding because we needed to proceed in a legal authority way. We can't just go in there and saying, hey, we're going to go in there and save your treasures without people's permission about it, whether it be private or public collections. We needed two things to happen at this point. When we had agreement, we had a place, we had a plan, or at least the beginnings of a plan, and that was we needed somebody to manage the thing. And so I needed Olson. And then I needed somebody who would do the conservation, who really do the gut work in terms of day-to-day overseeing, training, supervising, and handling the conservation needs of the project. And Stephanie, you had retired in January from the Smithsonian, been a conservator over in African art. And Stephanie emails me and she says, is there anything I can do to help? And I said, do I have a job for you?
Right.
So, why'd you do it?
I've been asking myself that, Richard. I had just left the Smithsonian after working at African Art for 11 years, and I was starting a private practice in Miami. And I had just taken a week-long AIC course on disaster response and had been following the earthquake news closely. As many people know, Miami is the largest area of Haitian diaspora in the US. So we have an area called Little Haiti. So I was following it very closely, and I had studied Haitian art, and I speak French. And as my business wasn't quite off the ground yet, I was like, well, I have some time, maybe I can be of assistance. So I did write Richard, not knowing it would quite work out this way.
And then Olson, Olson, by the way, is a former Minister of Culture of Haiti, trained as an architect, and in great demand. And Olson, you had to go around really making this work. I mean, you had to hire people, get vehicles. We had to bring in generators from Canada, you know, to power, you know, the building because lack of public resources. How did you, I mean, did you really think you could put this together? And how did you do it? What were the big challenges?
I just thought it was impossible. It's when Richard called me in early March, like when he first visited in Haiti after the earthquake with Diana, and he wanted to have a meeting with me, Patrick Delatour, and some other people. Corey was there, remember? And he said, we need to do something. And I said, if we have to do something, we need to work with the cultural sector. People who are trying to save everything they can, but with no means, with no resources. And we need to reinforce that movement. And that was Patrick Delatour saying, we need to reinforce the government too. Say yes, but cultural collection are in private hands, so we need to support those people. So that's the only way we can do something. And in May, when Corey, you, and the Haiti team with Mike came, we start thinking about how to do things really. So talk to people, talk to collection owners, and see things on the ground, and start identifying like eventual partners. So I think the answers came from the community. It's like when we talk to people, and we really saw that everybody wanted to do something, wanted to organize something. And I think they saw a different face from the US, different from the military side. So people who want to really save what every Haitian cares about, their culture. So we have a huge support from people coming in. So when we visited the place, they took time to talk to us, and they show us the problem, and they have ideas how to resolve it. And we start really having an idea what we're gonna do. And by the beginning of May, I remember Corey sent the report, and all the conservators, there is many conservators like Suzanne, and there was Vicky Lee. So they sent a report saying, from what we saw, something is possible. And we had an idea what the plan should be. And since we have people's commitment, so we have a plan, and so we started negotiation for the building. It was end of May, and the rainy season was about to start, and we thought we need to do things. So we lacked the only piece that we missed was the government. We needed to have an agreement with the Ministry of Culture. So I am a former Minister of Culture, and I know the environment, it's pretty hard. And we had to go to every director, general director, who had like people named by the president. It's a powerful people. Even we don't know exactly what they're doing, they're very powerful. But we had to go to everyone, to the minister, advisor, and talk. So we need an agreement. And I remember that it was at the end of May, And I said, we need to put a date on it and have an agreement signed so we can start this thing, but because there is no question that we start something without a legal framework. And so it was May 23rd, and we discussed with the minister, and she said, we're gonna sign something on May 24th, but start political things. Who's gonna manage that? So what we gonna do? So where the government fits? And I remember it was May 23rd at 11 o'clock, I received an email from Richard. Saying, do you think I should come? Because it's tough. They're not gonna sign. And I said, just come and they'll sign. And when we went to the minister, and we saw a very different agreement with what we have worked on. But you know, the problem in government is not the president or neither the minister, it's people around. So we met with the president, we met with the first lady, and we met with the minister of culture. And everybody was agreed.
Yeah, I mean, to put this in perspective, we got some of the money. We got the money on May 16th. We signed an agreement finally with the Ministry of Culture on May 24th, and we took occupancy of the building on June 1st.
Yeah,
so this was a whirlwind of
very
activity.
quick thing. Yeah. But I am also teaching at the university, and I'm working with many people, and I wanted to put a team very quickly together. And by, I think, June 7th, we had like a group of 10 people working and trying to do things. And it's, from my point of view, it's a very good group of people. So very consensus trying to do things. But beside those people, we had like at least 14 institutions, cultural institutions, that wanted to be involved. So they came to all of meetings, and some of them participate. So artists wanted to be in. So I think we got a great response from the Haitian culture community, and the government really finally supported. So everything, I think we need to somebody like Patrick Delatour, who is the Minister of Tourism, supported totally the project. And said that there was no question. So because to do something in Haiti, you need the money, you need the resources, but you need to avoid political position. It's to make it possible. No. It's like our job was like to create the kind of environment that would allow us to work. And I think by now, we're trying to get that environment, so we're almost there.
Yeah, and we relied on a lot of American conservators to come down. And Errol, when you were looking for conservators to come down, who were you looking for? We know Vicky.
Yes. Well, again, we went to initially to our team of trained emergency responders, the AIC CERT members. Started with that group, and we set up a system to try to determine how many volunteers from this group we had who could actually commit time to Haiti. And again, these are volunteer members. And we coordinated with Stephanie, very carefully determined what kind of skills were needed, what type of people, what expertise she needed down there at any particular time. And we began to set up a system for people going down and set up the travel arrangements for them. We also worked with AIC CERT members to help us determine what kind of supplies would be needed, coordinating again with Stephanie to think about what would be ordered. And then we, through these grants from IMLS, NEH, and NEA, we also purchased supplies and figured out, and this is not the easy thing, figure out how to get them to Haiti. And often it was in the suitcases of those traveling down, and not easy. But it's worked out really beautifully so far. But as the center became more stable, we actually branched out and realized that we didn't need to limit responders to AIC CERT members, that the skills of many of our members were needed beyond that team of 64 trainers. So we have opened it up, and we had almost 200 volunteers from AIC to go to Haiti, and we've set up a committee to work through the skills and expertise that we needed, and even down to thinking who are the people who can actually work well with a team in difficult situations. So it's been quite a process to develop all of this over these months.
And then stuff started coming in. So I remember the first objects coming into the center, and Gail Joyce from the American Indian Museum, you set up a registrarial system. What are you doing here? You look like you're busy.
Yes, we were. We had the opportunity to go to the Nader Gallery, where many of the paintings that had been salvaged from the wreckage of the museum had been saved. And as Richard had said, and others, the Nader family really was out there digging things out of the rubble. And some of their very most important paintings, such as this paintings here, which is by Hector Hippolyte, had suffered severe damage. So my job was to help set up a registration system, a documentation system, from my expertise as many years as being a registrar, with our Haitian colleague, Carmelita Duby, who is the registrar for the center. And so we had to set up primarily paper documentation so that we could keep track of a growing number of objects that would come. These were the very first, and we made sure that we had our numbering system and that we were clearly documenting what was coming in. So in this picture, we were measuring the painting, rechecking the dimensions. The Nader family is very lucky. They had photos of almost everything, of the initial things that they had sorted out to bring in. But our plan had to include how are we going to clearly document, make sure that we had, the legal paperwork, which our Smithsonian Office of Counsel had worked with us on, the loan form, the basic thing about your objects will be coming into the institution. We will be working on them and what that legal release would be on behalf of the Smithsonian. So we brought in the first 5 paintings, and while I was there, I was only there for 5 days in June, but at the same time, we were very busy trying to make sure that Carmelita had a good setup of paper files. We will be going to an electronic system very soon because of the growing numbers of things, but we also had to look at how are we going to start storing these objects that are coming in. And I know that's probably a continuing challenge in the space that we have, but that was one of the things that I was helping with, was looking at the rooms that we had available for storage and working with Carmelita to look at how would we set up an inventory system, a numbering system, so as things came in and we're waiting for the conservators to work on them, we would be able to tell them where they were and document the movement from location to location.
And here's a guy, Hitoshi Kimura, who was, what's he doing over here?
Well, I was there when Hitoshi was there, and Hitoshi's working on the first painting that came into the center, or the one that he chose to work on. And for those conservators in the audience, you'll understand. He's mending, first he vacuumed, and then he mended the canvas that had tears in it, filled it, and nothing was going to prevent him from end painting it before he had to fly back to the U.S., which he was down to the wire of nearly not going to be able to get out because of not getting to the airport soon enough, which is a big deal in Haiti. And Hitoshi was really an amazing paintings conservator to be there on the ground and really to have as a resource during that trip. I think it was a very personal endeavor for Hitoshi because his family had actually suffered loss as a result of the earthquake in Japan. So I think he had a really personal connection with what had happened in Haiti and the real desire to salvage and bring back the damaged cultural material there.
And here's you.
Yes,
what are you working on?
This is me. I'm working on a Taino figure, which, for those that don't know, the Tainos were the original indigenous inhabitants of what would be the Caribbean islands. And this was a very wonderful, joyously happy day for me. both because it was finally an opportunity to work on something to bring my skills to bear. But it also, particularly on the second trip down, I felt a real sense of wanting to leave having repaired something so that the Haitians at the different cultural institutions that we had the opportunity to meet and try and build goodwill with, they really understood we were there to do. We weren't just going to continue to talk to them and say, yes, we're going to come. We were already there and we were doing, which is, I think, in some ways something that they really needed to have to foster that goodwill and to continue to build those relationships.
And there's Vicki, right, working on a document.
Indeed.
Yeah, and there's a few of the Hector Hippolyte paintings being restored. And here's the murals from the Episcopal Church. And I think that's Olson up on the scaffolding. And Stephanie, you're over there, right? I mean, in the blue. And that's what the murals look like. And Stephanie, tell us about this I mean, it's not only stuff brought in, you're finding things.
We were, and this tapestry that was on the other side of the murals, the picture Richard just showed, and I had been in this room several times without realizing that this was a tapestry. We thought it was just, you know, a tarp, or I couldn't tell what it was. And I was actually just looking at the wardrobe, trying to figure out how to move the wardrobe from the wall, and I lifted it up and saw at the corner that it was actually a tapestry. So my colleague Harold helped me to free it, and we realized we had quite a nice European tapestry that was on the other side of the church wall from the mural.
Do we ever know what it is or where it's from or anything, any provenance?
Not great specific information. It's European in origin, and it has like a pastoral hunting scene, but I don't have more curatorial information.
So the center is now operating, and we start, one of the first trips, George Nader, owner of the art gallery, said, you know, it would really be helpful if people in the United States can make like care packages for artists, because we have artists that paint. So he gave us a list of paints, and the first people to put together a care package and send it to George to distribute to Haitian artists were the staff over at African Art. And Steve, you led that effort.
We did. It was actually a pleasure because it allowed us, you know, all of us who work with art materials to contribute something to our colleagues. And we were very careful to make sure that it wasn't done on government time and not using government money, and all of those good things so that we could send something on. And, you know, frankly, you can all imagine, it was kind of a piece of cake. I collected money from some of the staff, took the list, and went up to the art supply store and just shopped with abandon. It was great. And then packaged it, and I did send it on the government dime, but don't tell anybody.
Yeah. And now many people have sent packages, and over 120 artists have gotten those packages. Now artists, professional artists, weren't the only people painting in Haiti. During this time, after the earthquake, another artist, Philippe Dodard, had brought together 2 school buses, started holding classes for children to paint scenes of the earthquake. And this was a great form of therapy. And Janetta Cole, the head of the African Art Museum, and I were here in Washington. Elizabeth Préval, the First Lady of Haiti, came. She calls up and says, Richard, Janetta, come on over. She's over giving a talk at George Washington University. And she says, here. And she hands us like 120 paintings of the children had made in Haiti and said, do an exhibit. And Steve, what's that exhibit turned into?
Do an exhibit. Is it on? I'm sorry. Can you hear me? So do an exhibit, and so we did. And you know, you all know how that is. A 6-week turnaround to do an exhibit. It wasn't quite 120 works of art. It was 97. But I want to tell you a little bit more detail than Richard gave you about the sort of evolution of this, because it's quite an extraordinary story. Shortly after the January 12th earthquake, the First Lady of Haiti contacted artists in Haiti, psychologists and educators, and tried to work out something to relieve the despair and the trauma that the children of Haiti had been through. And the result of that collaboration was something called Place Timon, a children's place. And the intention of Place Timon is to provide a safe place for children to go to express how the earthquake has affected them and respond to it some way. But it's important to note, according to the First Lady of Haiti, that it was also a place where children could go and just free their mind from the devastation and the tragedy around them, where they could go, play sports, be involved in art activities and performing art activities, just free their mind and continue to be children. And it's quite wonderful. A little bit more about the exhibition. I don't want to go over time, but we ended up mounting 97 of the works on paper and contextualized the exhibition with some videos from the Miami Herald that show the First Lady, Obama, not the Haitian First Lady, and Jill Biden working with the children to create art, and those are also on exhibition. But just a case in point, the exhibition is in the concourse at the Ripley Center, and it opened on the 17th of June and was to close on the 17th of October. However, at the request of the First Lady of Haiti, we are keeping the exhibition open through the anniversary, so it'll be open until the 16th of January.
And also, Diana Njai had been working on developing a Folklife Festival program on the mall. What were you doing, and what happened?
Well, actually, when we were in Haiti on that first trip, we met with Giselle Fleurin, who had worked with us on a program called Culture and Development at the Folklife Festival, really highlighting Haitian crafts and its role in development. And you know, there's about 400,000 craftspeople in Haiti, and they support families up to 1 million people, and so it was a really important part of the Haitian economy, but also as important as that was, also a very important part of the cultural autobiography of Haitians themselves, carrying so much meaning in terms of the symbolism and the real richness of Haitian culture. So we asked Giselle, you know, how we could help, and actually, one of the first things she said was that, you know, people need materials, people need to have money in their pockets for reconstruction, and so Richard looked around in pockets and so on, we ended up putting $25,000 up front of money to craftspeople to purchase crafts outright for the Folklife Festival. The other thing that was happening was that there were many people in the United States who wanted to know more about what was going on in Haiti, and Haitian Americans, of course, were supporting their families at home and were struggling to keep their spirits up, to tell people about what was going on. And we were hearing things from Haiti, from musicians, for example, like Lolo Beaubrun from Boukman Experience. They were one of the early voices coming out talking about what was going on in Haiti. Also, Le Voix Exil, who is a painter who was painting stories. He had a premonition about the earthquake, and he was part of a very important movement, the Sans Soleil movement in Haiti also. Also Mireille Delisme, who was in 2004 a participant in the festival and who's an incredible sequined flag artist. And she was also using her art to talk about the earthquake and to visually represent what went on. And so we thought it was important for them to come as well and to talk to folks. So we ended up working with Giselle and with Moreau Bourac, who is another crafts organizer in Jacmel, which was also very badly hit by the earthquake, to organize artists, to get the work here. One of the things that happened on the way was that, you know, it was getting closer and closer to the deadline for shipping. And we said, well, you know, what's going on? Moreau said, well, you know, a lot of the packing materials, a lot of the cardboard is being used by people to shore up the houses that they were building. So that was a really important part of it. Anyway, everything got there miraculously on time. The local Haitian community came out in force to translate, to support the artists who actually ended up being at the festival. There was an incredible concert the first week of the festival, and the two artists in residence also spoke to people about their experiences, as well as showed the incredible artwork that they were making. So all in all, it was a real chance to have a connection, but also to support artists. People came out and bought, and we were able to sell we were able to really sell a lot of the work, so it was very good all around.
Good. And we'll take questions from the audience in a minute or two. I just want to say, after that, the President's Committee went down to Haiti. Secretary of the Smithsonian went down to Haiti, met with people from the Haitian cultural community. I think it was very important. Plans firmed up to fortify the murals at the church, so in the rainy season they wouldn't fall down, because if we wanted to get them down. And saving those murals is going to be a job, and they've been tested. We have world-class curators. Stephanie, you want to spend just maybe a minute or 90 seconds telling us, what's the plan for these murals? What are we going to do?
Well, the plan is to consolidate and remove the murals from the walls, because the walls themselves are unstable and could really fall basically at any time. So we're going to actually have an architectural conservator and a mural painting conservator and a team of Haitian studio assistants consolidate and then face the murals and then lift them off in sections. And eventually the walls will then be raised from the cathedral. And at some point in the future, we hope the murals can be reincorporated into the next version of the cathedral.
My worst vision of this, if you remember the Mel Brooks movie, History of the World Part 2, where Mel Brooks says Moses come down from the mountain, he says, here are the 10 commandments. My worst fear, of course, is it, but I think we have a great team to try to do this. Corey, you were very intent from the beginning on training and working with our friends at ICRAM. Can you maybe somewhat quickly describe what we did a training session and what we want to achieve here?
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the first considerations was we wanted to have Haitians help save their own cultural heritage, obviously, and because there's not as much infrastructure for that in Haiti, we knew that training would be a big component as time went on, and so we teamed up with the International Conservation Center in Rome, which is a UNESCO-founded organization who has done a lot of this type of training around the world for mid-career cultural heritage professionals working with collections, and also emergency preparation and response training. And so we had them come out and do a 3-week course in the August-September timeframe, and taught about 25 Haitian young cultural heritage professionals about collections management. And I think it was a great course, and the ICRAM were great partners on working with that. And we had folks come from different parts of the world, from Italy and from Canada, to do that training in French, and it was very successful.
I love the fact that our Haitian conservators, colleagues, trainees, were arguing amongst themselves about how to do stuff better, kind of like we do at the Smithsonian. So I thought, people really embraced the idea of, being able to, work on their own cultural materials and play a tremendous role at this time. And then this is one of my favorite photographs, because finally the UN guys are in blue hats, and our folks are in yellow hats. And what's going on here, Stephanie?
Yeah, this was also one of my most rewarding experiences, because we were physically pulling things from the rubble. And our colleagues at UNESCO mobilized a team of Japanese engineers who are UN troops. And this was their first non-humanitarian effort. They'd never done a cultural recovery project before. But they came with a bulldozer and some heavy lifting equipment, and they went into the rubble directly, and then our ICRAM course participants assisted in processing the works. And we recovered about 150 more works over a 2-day period. So it was really, really rewarding.
Is that you?
That's me.
At the Smithsonian, we have a saying, other duties as a sign. This is other duties as a sign. And then the Santa Art, about, I think, what is it also, about 3,000 paintings have now come to the center?
It's a little bit more than 3,000. It's the Center of Art has been the center for the Renaissance of Haitian painting in the mid 20th century. So we got many Haitian paintings coming from different parts of the country, trained by a group of painters, and they start painting. So some of them, like Hector Hippolyte, painted like more than 300 paintings in 5 years. So it's been a huge moment of production in Haitian painting, and we got many artworks. And the Center of Art had been at the center of this whole movement. And when we saw the painting from the Center of Art into 2 shipping containers sitting under the sun for 6 months, it's like a heartbreaking situation. And we wanted to have the painting out of the sun and so like clean them, do the triage, and put them in like a more controlled area, which is the center, the Cultural Recovery Center. And we start using people. We program that. We start the program with the training session, and people at the training session could do practical application with the Center of Art staff. So, and they went to the site, and we managed to bring the containers at the center, and we start working on it. It's one of our biggest projects. It's, the Center of Art has a huge significance for like Haitian art historian, Haitian artists, and we have like painters who wanted to be part of this experience.
It's their stuff.
Yep. But beside the paintings, more than 3,000, we got a huge collection of cut metal sculpture, and we also have administrative document back from 1940s.
Yeah.
It's like it's everything from like a receipt to thanking of events about Haitian painting. It's like a huge documentation material that we need to, so we want to save.
Yeah, I mean, this is like saving the equivalent of, Haiti's National Gallery of Art. We're ready to take, I think, some questions, if people have any. As we do this and operate the center and have conservators working and Haitians working, Mike Bellamy's team continues to work on it. I know we have a mold problem. We have silverfish. We just did termites, right? We figured out how to do termites and protect the art. So if anybody has a question, yes.
My name's Nancy Mandel, and I lived in Haiti in 1978. I had several questions. Firstly, aside from the Centre d'Art, there was the Art Museum at that time. What is the status now, not only of the building, but of the collections from the museum? How many were damaged? How many were saved? That would be one concern. A second concern, please, would be with regard to the Episcopal Cathedral and the murals which you discussed. What percentage, roughly, of the total collection of the murals that were originally in the Episcopal Cathedral, let's say in 1978, what percentage of those can be saved, or what was left, as opposed to, let's say, portions of murals which may have crumbled into dust or been destroyed by the quake? Those would be two questions, please.
Okay. Stephanie, you want to take the murals first? Or?
Sure. The Holy Trinity Cathedral had a cycle of 14 murals, and 3 are extant now. One of the 3 covers 3 walls, but I would say it probably represents maybe 15% of the total that's left. The others literally did just crumble and fall, and we have a number of just loose fragments about this size, hundreds of them, that we did recover, but they were essentially the 11 other murals all mixed together. So very, perhaps impossible without good photographs to reconstruct. But we do hope to recover the 15% that's extant.
Yeah, and right now we're actually testing those fragments at the Smithsonian's Museum Conservation Institute, as I understand this, and Stephanie or other conservators here, you and others can correct me, but this is like taking down a vertical jigsaw puzzle. You know, where you take it down and you hope you get a chunk of that mural that, you know, is in the shape of Indiana. And you hope when you take it down, it doesn't turn into Rhode Island as you're doing it. So the idea is to test the paints so that when you put that facing adhesive on and pull it down, it's not like Scotch tape where you pull off the mural. So you need to put the adhesive on, take it down, and then the idea is to put those pieces of the mural into a foam kind of tray, and then hopefully restore the substrate and then hold on to it until the Episcopal Cathedral has plans to either reinstall it in a new mural, hopefully not in a wall, but maybe as a kind of separate boxed installation. In terms of the museums overall, that's been a big issue.
Beside the murals at the Episcopal Cathedral, we recovered some 3D objects, some sculpture and some other fragments. So we start working on some of them because we had painters, but we had sculptors, Haitian sculptors working for the Episcopal Church too. So, and we recovered plenty of materials, trying to have a sense of what we can put together for the future.
I'm sorry.
And so, beside the Episcopal Church, you asked about evaluation. So we do not know until now the extent of the damage. We do know that many people have been able to save the collection, to trying to save the much they can. And they put many things into containers. Some of them are still in containers. We haven't got into them. So some of them are in boxes. And we have yet to do a systematic evaluation of what the work to be done. But we needed to act first on the most urgent thing. Like the Center of Art was very urgent, 3,000 paintings sitting on the sun. So, and the Episcopal Church, the murals, were sitting on the rain, and it's like he got water coming in. So we wanted to act very, very quickly. I remember as early as like June 15, we went to see the bishop of the Episcopal Church, and he signed something and give us the permission to work. And we worked quickly with the people at the Center of Art, and they wanted us to take charge, and we were able to do something. But we had like the 3-week training session where we were able to work with 14 institutions. And at those institutions, we are having like vis-a-vis, so we can go into those institutions, make like detailed evaluation. And so now we are working on special project for each institution. What we can do for Mupana, what we can do for ISPAN, what we can do for different institutions who took part of the training session. I think in about 2 or 3 months, we should be able to have a really good sense of the operational objective, operational goal for conservation.
The problem is the lack of pre-existing inventories to understand exactly the nature of it. And, here's the Bureau of National Ethnology. The blue you see in there are the tops of Tupperware lids where thousands of ethnological collections were stored. So even doing an inventory of what's damaged there, you can't get in there until we take that roof off because you don't want to get hit by a flying roof. So just doing the inventories and doing the assessments is not that easy to do. We just had a fellow come down, Kessler Pierre, who's Haitian American, who works, interestingly enough, on synagogues and churches in New York, doing an assessment of the stained glass in the cathedral to see, how we get that. So, on one hand, we're playing catch up because we're trying to figure out what are the priority needs, what can we get permission to do, what can we figure out to do, and at the same time, you're trying to raise the money to support the doing of it. We have another question here.
Right. Thank you all so much. This has been fascinating. And I am sort of interested in the question of lessons learned. And I was interested first to hear the degree to which experiences in trying to preserve cultural heritage in Iraq and in New Orleans fed into the approach that was taken in Haiti. And then I'm also interested to hear what lessons have been learned from cultural recovery efforts in Haiti that might be applied down the line in terms of future such catastrophes.
Corey, why don't you're the instigator of all this. So.
Well, I think one of the lessons that we learned from Iraq and even from Katrina is that there's a lot of room for improvement in our ability as a cultural heritage community to provide an emergency response for our colleagues who are in need. And there's a little bit of an attitude of, well, there's so much humanitarian need, how can you even think about culture? And I'm not saying, culture should come first, but culture should come at least third, fourth, or fifth. And in our past experiences, our lessons learned, it often hasn't come at all until, in many cases, it's kind of too late. And so, I don't think it's an either or. Oh, you can either do humanitarian aid or you can do culture. I don't see any reason why we can't do both simultaneously. The Haitians certainly were. People like Patrick Villar were spending those precious hours after the earthquake saving cultural heritage while, so if we could be there helping our colleagues, so much the better.
I would add to that one of the things I think that cultural recovery does in the event of a disaster is a lot of times the people who have incurred the loss, suffered the loss, don't really realize the difference between what is salvageable, what we can save, and what we can't. And sometimes just providing them with the knowledge of, oh, that looks like it's a total loss, but in reality, we can deal with that, is a great psychological burden lifted. And I think for me, the really interesting thing that I learned, particularly from the Haitian experience, was the Haitians were not sitting around not doing anything about their culture. When we got down there the first trip, I was astounded at how much they had already recovered from the rubble, which is the really hard part, the getting out there under the sun, in the elements, doing this. Yes, there was more to be done later, but it was amazing how they had already taken that as a very important part of moving on. And in some ways, in the initial stages, it's just simply, like you would for anyone who's been in a disaster. You reach out, you hold their hand, you tell them, it's going to be okay, we're going to be here, and we're going to go through this together. And that's really one of the first important parts of cultural recovery, is to give people hope. So
another aspect of it is what you can do when you work with communities. We had a meeting today, and so we've been thinking about how fast you can act if you involve communities. It's what I've learned in Haiti so far is that if we had to wait for the government or for the institution, formal institution to move, we would be there trying to have agreements. And it's like if you need to work with creators, we need to work with people who care, who are doing collections care. You need to work with cultural leaders, and that's how you can get things done quickly. Because the other aspect of it is that you need to train people. It's something pretty new in Haiti, trying to deal with many cultural, natural disasters. Like from 2004 to now, it's like we have got like 10 major natural disasters. And then it's become like a way of living, and with climate change, we're expecting a lot more. And we try to create a system within the community to know how to protect their own cultural properties. So it's very important, but you cannot go too far just working with communities. You need to move on trying to put institutions. You need to move on trying to involve government, trying to involve formal institutions. So we are now dealing with that difficult part. You can think that people realize that there is a need to act very quickly about culture, but when you start planning, so politics get involved, and things get difficult. So we have learned that we need to simplify things. We don't need to rely on too formal process to get things done, and trying to make things simple. It's been very important for us.
Question?
Yes, thank you. In addition to art and dance and music, architecture is also an important part of Haiti's cultural heritage. And unfortunately, in an earthquake like that in Jacmel and in Port-au-Prince, many culturally significant structures have been damaged, in addition to the large public structures like the National Palace and the Cathedral. Many of those structures are in private hands. Obviously, it's very costly to try to preserve many of those buildings. What thought is being given to how to deal with the potential that much of Haiti's architectural cultural heritage could be lost in the next year or two as reconstruction proceeds?
Yeah, I mean, it was a big issue right after the earthquake, because in some cases people went around and saying, okay, take this building down, destroy this building, in Jacmel, for example. And then ISPA and the cultural heritage people, Daniel, Ali, and others say, no, don't. This is not just a wreck, this is a historic building, and particularly in Jacmel, which was on the tentative list for consideration as a World Heritage Site. When we went down on that first trip, we got into I got into an argument with some of fellow U.S. government people about the nature of rubble. At that time, the U.S. government, your taxpayer dollars, were going in Haiti for good cause. It was paying basically Haitian, largely youth, to shovel rubble, $5 a day, cash for work. People needed the money. People needed to move rubble. And so we had a discussion, and Corey, I don't know if you remember it, or Diana, about the nature of cultural rubble. Was cultural rubble different than other kind of rubble? That is, we wanted to pay people not to shovel up rubble to throw it away, but shovel up rubble to save it, because it might be architecturally significant rubble. And we were trying to get USAID to pay $5 a day for cultural rubble. We failed. I think Olds, I know, has been involved in a project also with the gingerbread houses, for example, in Port-au-Prince, which are in private hands. I don't know, is there any progress on that?
Yeah.
Focal was working on that?
And we've been working on this project with the help of ICOMOS too, and with ISPA. So the approach with architectural features, architectural materials, is that we cannot deal with architectural material without thinking about the whole site. So, and there is a specific institution who is working on that, which is ISPA. ISPA is a National Institute for Heritage, that built heritage. So we've been working now with ISPA, trying to put together a specific project. So you need to, if you got a bas-relief into a building, so you can't just show the building, so this was the building. So we try to take this out and save this. If we try also to not only architectural material, but so some urban things, like if we have a status in a backyard or in a square, so you need to save this. So it's ISPA, we have been helping him, is putting together a project, and we save many things. Like, and some of architectural material is just like artworks. Like if you can see a Capitol, if you can take like the mural, the mural was part of the cathedral. So we try to save as much as we can, but you got also a problem with architectural material is that people need a place to live, and when the building fell down, they need to take this away and rebuild something in the place. And you need to make a selection out of many things, and it's gonna be very quickly many materials. So what ISPA is doing is try to save the most significant out of the most important building. It's what they are doing with us, with that special project.
Yeah, and we're trying to do a division of labor too between different organizations, so we coordinate with that. I think we have it just has to be the last question. I'm sorry.
Yes, actually I have a series of questions. I'll see if we can compact
If you
them all
could pick
together.
your most important one, because I think we're
Exactly.
out of time.
The most important for me, actually, in this whole discussion, first of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Marcel Roy. I'm a Haitian artist and director of an arts and culture organization called Kilty here in DC. The most important question for me is the special relationship that the center has with the Nader Museum, because as far as my knowledge serves, is that the collection of the Nader Museum is a private collection. And you haven't mentioned the other two museums, Musée de Saint-Pierre and Mupana, so I'm really curious as to how those collections are being handled, if at all.
Yep.
But most importantly, because this is something that's very troubling and confusing also for the Haitian community and artists in terms of the special relationship of conserving private collections and no mentioning of the public collections.
Well, that's a I mean, ISPAN is dealing with public collections. We have projects with Mupana as well, with the Bureau of
We're actually
National
building project with 14 institutions and 6 public institutions out of 14. We started with Nader actually for 2 reasons. And when we started having like conservators in, and a day after the assessment, and somebody says, what if we get some artworks so we can start doing something? And I called Georges Nader and say, can you give us some paintings to work on? And he said, sure. It was a Saturday, so come in. We're gonna get some artwork. And he gave us about 20 paintings. Remember, Nader has a gallery, but Nader is the only gallery that has a museum. And he got like 15,000 paintings at the museum.
Right. The only issue is that the museum. I'm sorry.
The point
but,
is,
when you speak of the museum, that's where my concern is, because I'm very aware of the Nadia Museum, but it's not really treated as a typical museum as we know it. So that's why I'm interested in that.
Yeah. So what I wanted to stress is that we took some paintings from Nades, but we got 3,000 paintings from the Center of Art, which is like a non-for-profit institution, and we actually have paintings from the National Palace at the center we're working on. We just restored painting from Rainbow Collection. It's like we're trying to have many. We just are working with Flamboyant Gallery on stuff they have to restore. So we really are working with many institutions trying to do things. And we are sure that we're not going to be able to restore a lot of paintings because it takes time. We're focusing mostly on, first thing is collection management. How do you deal with big collection? How do you protect it? And the other thing is that we're going to try to train more and more people so they can deal with their own collection. Our approach really is not to restore individual painting, but to help people find a way to deal with the restoration things on the long run.
Yeah, I think the situation in Haiti is you have public institutions and you have private institutions and nonprofit institutions, and different countries of the world have different things. In some countries more things is in the are in the public sector, other things are in the private. Neither the Haitian government nor the international community, UNESCO and others, have really made the distinction in this case. The destruction is so widespread, and you really are talking about the cultural heritage of a nation. And so we've been able to deal with both, and we have certain types of agreements in place, and we are certainly sensitive to it. Well, I think we're at the end of the program. I don't know, does anybody on the stage have a kind of final thought that they want to share? Anything? Olson, where do you go from here with the project? What happens?
We don't know. So as we started the project and we start working on many aspects that are very new for me, very new for the Haitian institution, and we really think that we need to think about it on a longer term. And now we're thinking about 5 aspects. So we need to work on is to first of all have a national register, so we know what do we have, what do we need to protect in case there is a natural disaster, and we don't have that. So as we're working with like 20, 15 institutions, so we have the means to collect the information from them. So that's something that we're about to do, have an inventory of the most important things in Haiti in terms of cultural materials. The second thing is to people who participated at the training session, we want to organize them into a national system for protecting cultural material in terms of disaster. So if you have like 50 Patrick Villar, so we would have been able to save many things. That's what we want to achieve. But we also think that training needs to be a very important part. We are now trying to work with some universities in Haiti that are conservation program, but they have like cultural preservation, not any conservation like courses. So we're trying to discuss with them how to put together some aspect in terms of disaster preparedness for cultural materials, etc. So with university trying to put some continuing program. And the center has the possibility to build a huge documentation on conservation and recovery. So we are working with many conservators, we're working with many people that are giving us materials. So we think that for the future, we're going to have a good documentation on saving cultural material and documentation also on our own experience of doing this project. So I talk about training, register, national system for cultural preservation, and we talked about documentation, but the other side of it is the labs. So we're putting together 4 labs, and we think that the labs could really support all the aspects, either the training, either the documentation, either like organizing this national system for cultural preservation. So we think for the next year, so from now to November, we'll be able to put really together a proposal that we might be able to discuss with the new government. We are into electoral process now, and the private institution, private cultural institution are part of it. So we probably need to put some formal and long-term institution, long-term system together to deal with that. But we expect for the next year, we're going to be able to make a huge difference from what it was at the beginning of the project.
There was not much there. We have to figure out how to fund it. We have to figure out sustainability over the long term. You should realize that behind everybody here and everybody who spoke and some that didn't, there's a lot of people behind everybody who make things happen.
Exactly.
So Olson and the whole crew over in the Haiti Cultural Recovery Center, a lot of people working hard every day to make that happen. And I think behind all of us, and I'd like to thank LaShawn Burrell Jones, my assistant, who has done the travel, I think, for everybody here. Roberta Walsdorf, who's not here, who's touched every contract. I mean, there's been really scores of people behind everything that's happened at this effort. And, we couldn't do what you see at the front end, could not get done with all those people doing that very hard work. So thank you very much, Betsy. Thank you for hosting us here, and thank you all.